A shot rang out in the commander's chamber after our loud argument with the captain. We thought we had brought him to the point of no return, but what we saw afterwards was much worse. What happened next and how events developed after that. Listen to the story from beginning to end. The end will shock you the most. I thought he shot himself. That sound, sharp, close, real, cut through the night like a blade. I didn't think. I just ran. Riley was already moving, boots crunching gravel. Ramirez behind me, Foster right behind him. No words, just pure reaction, like the ridge itself had just cracked open. We rushed the tent, adrenaline screaming through our arms. I hit the flap first, unzipped it fast, expecting blood, but it wasn't that. Smithers was standing in the center of the tent, arm raised, gun pointed to the ceiling. The barrel smoked. His face was flushed, his breathing all over the place. Not furious, not proud, just hollow. Shaking, like a man who'd finally realized he wasn't in charge anymore. We didn't say anything. We didn't have to. The silence in that tent said more than words could. He didn't look at us, not right away. His eyes darted between the corners of the tent, like he was still hoping someone else would step in, fix this for him. Then he spoke. Quiet. Flat. You want me gone? Fine. I already called it in. Told command. Everything. The insubordination. The lack of discipline. All of it. His voice cracked on the last word. He lowered the gun. Not in defeat. Just surrender. I'm stepping down. Dawn. I'm done. He dropped the pistol. It hit the ground with a dull thud. The kind of sound that ends something. Then he sat down. That was it. No yelling, no drama. Just a man who ran out of ways to pretend he was still in control. I didn't follow. None of us did. Riley watched him a second longer. Ramirez just stared, lips tight. Then we backed out of the tent. Outside, no one cheered. No one said a word. We stood there under a sky full of cold stars, trying to understand what we'd just seen. And in that silence, one thing was clear. Smithers was finished. But the ridge? It wasn't done with us yet. By the time the sky started fading into that bruised shade of morning, the camp had gone still in a new way. Not tense, just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes when something heavy's been lifted, but you're too bruised to feel relief. Smithers stayed in his tent. The gun was still lying on the ground where he dropped it. No one touched it. Not out of fear, out of finality. It didn't matter anymore. Then the radio crackled. At first it was just static, and we all looked up like ghosts. But then came the voice. Command level clear. No hesitation. This is HQ. We've received Captain Smithers' report. Based on recent behavioral flags and failure to maintain operational cohesion, he is hereby relieved of command. Effective immediately. Replacement designation pending. Interim unit leadership to be determined internally. Acknowledge. I stared at the radio. Riley exhaled hard. Ramirez blinked once, then smiled for the first time in... I don't even know how long. For anyone new listening to this, thinking you're just dropping into another war story, this isn't about winning battles. This isn't about medals or glory. It's about surviving people. The ones outside the wire and the ones inside your own tent. That man almost tore us apart without firing a single shot. And now, the damage he caused might be deeper than anything we've taken from enemy fire. Smithers didn't even step outside after the message. We didn't check on him. We didn't need to. Command's voice had more power than all our rage combined. Then came the second call. This unit will assign interim command responsibility to its most senior active field operative, Sergeant Luis Ramirez. Temporary until further directive. There was no cheering, just nods. Just eyes meeting eyes. The kind of quiet, sturdy respect that isn't earned through shouting, but through showing up, again and again, even when it breaks you. Ramirez didn't say much. He gathered us at the central post, looked around at every tired, filthy, half-starved face. "I'm not a hero," he said, "but I'll make sure none of you are left behind. Not now, not ever." And for the first time in what felt like years, we believed it. No one expected quiet to feel this strange. For hours, the ridge held its silence, like it was waiting for permission to breathe. Ramirez didn't act like a new leader. He didn't need to. He just moved through the trench line with steady eyes and clear instructions. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't quote protocol. But somehow it worked. For the first time in weeks, people looked forward instead of over their shoulders. But war has no respect for timing. It was barely midday when the signal came through. Shortwave, choppy. Not from command, from the field. A scout team we hadn't heard from in 4 days. The voice on the other end was jagged, wind-cut. 3 squads, heavily armed, moving along tree cover. "You're not hidden. You're not safe." Foster froze. "They're watching us." "Already positioned," the voice snapped. "They waited for weakness. They saw it. They're moving before you recover." It hit us fast. Not fear, urgency. The kind that drills into your stomach and flips the switch. The kind that tells you, whatever calm you thought you earned, forget it. It's gone. If this is your first time hearing our story, understand this. It isn't about trenches or terrain. It's about momentum. The second you lose it, the enemy doesn't hesitate. They don't need to know names, just that you paused, just that you flinched. Ramirez didn't flinch. He turned to us, calm as ever. "Reinforce the southern bluff. Move the MG nest to the second rise. We double the forward screen and start setting wire. Now!" And we moved. No one looked back at the tent where Smithers once stood. That chapter closed itself. Now it was our turn to survive what was coming next. And we knew, whatever came down through those trees wouldn't be cautious. It would come fast, hard, measured, just like we used to be. They came just after we reset the line. It started with movement in the trees, shadows sliding between trunks, fast and too quiet for patrol. We knew it wasn't wildlife. We'd seen enough bad nights to recognize the rhythm of trained boots. Ramirez was already calling positions before we finished stringing the last wire. He wasn't shouting, just pointing, checking sights, confirming flanks. Jackson and Riley shifted up the slope. Foster posted to the southern bend. I slid into the gap near the comms post, my heart beating too fast for how cold my hands felt. The forest in front of us looked like it always did. Still, green, nothing but brush and wind. But we knew. You learn the look of a landscape right before it betrays you. I checked my rifle again, out of habit, not doubt. Breathing was shallow, but controlled. You don't panic out here. You just narrow. Sound, sight, fingers on metal. That's your world. Then the whisper came through the calm. Static, a sharp breath, and one word. Incoming. No countdown, no warning, no time to second guess. The first muzzle flash blinked through the brush. Riley's MG answered instantly. Jackson opened fire from the ridge wall. I sighted the shape near the fallen stump and fired twice. It dropped. Foster shouted, short, urgent, before dropping into the dirt and returning fire. Rounds cracked over our heads and snapped into trees behind. No cinematic pause, no dramatic thunder. Just fast, brutal noise. I saw Ramirez kneeling near the corner post, giving orders with hand signals, staying low but always moving, not yelling, not flinching. I don't remember thinking anything, just doing. You don't argue with instinct once the shooting starts. We were holding, for now. But whatever they threw at us next, it wasn't over. I lost track of time somewhere between the third and fourth burst. Could have been 5 minutes, could have been 15. In a fight like that, your world shrinks. There's no past, No later. Just movement, recoil, and whether the man next to you is still breathing. I saw one of them, enemy scout, crawling between tree roots, trying to flank us low. Took 2 shots to stop him. I don't even remember pulling the trigger. Just the recoil, the way he folded, and the way I moved on without a word. Foster's position got hit hard. Rounds tore through the lower berm. He yelled for more belts, and Riley sprinted half-crouched through the open to throw them in. One of the new guys, we barely knew his name, ran after Riley with extra water and dropped behind the crates just in time before another volley chewed the edge of the sandbags. They weren't rushing. They were measuring us, probing, looking for the soft spots, testing if we'd break. I could feel it in their timing. Ramirez moved like he was built for this moment. Not a word wasted. No panic. He shifted the second MG crew forward without hesitation, then called for flares. 2 arcs, 1 red, 1 white. That gave us 10 seconds of light, but it was enough. We saw them regrouping behind the second tree line. Not many, but enough. If you're picturing some clean shootout, forget it. It was mud, shouting, bark splinters in your eyes, fingers half numb on cold triggers. You blinked sweat into your sights and hoped the guy next to you didn't get hit before you did. I saw Riley reload twice in 30 seconds. His knuckles were bleeding. Jackson was shouting range calls, but I doubt anyone heard him over the gunfire. I didn't even realize I'd used nearly all my mags until Ramirez dropped next to me and handed over a fresh one without saying a word. It wasn't coordination, it was muscle memory. Brotherhood forged in exhaustion. You stop thinking and start trusting, because thinking gets people killed. We were still holding, barely, but I could feel it. They weren't finished, not even close. The attack didn't stop, it shifted. They pulled back just enough to make us think it was over. The kind of silence that feels wrong, like holding your breath in the middle of a scream. Ramirez raised his hand and signaled a hold. Riley froze mid-reload. Jackson turned toward the tree line, rifle low, eyes narrowed. Foster muttered something under his breath. None of us moved. Then the first mortar hit. It wasn't a full barrage, just 1 round, deliberate. Landed 20 meters behind the comms post and threw half a crate of supplies into the air. The sound punched straight through the ridge. Not a test, a warning. They weren't done with us. They were just getting started. I ducked instinctively, rolled behind the closest wall, and heard shrapnel tear into the sandbags overhead. Someone screamed behind me. Couldn't tell who. Ramirez was already yelling orders, pointing, dragging the machine gun crew into a fallback trench. One of the new kids, Cobb, I think, froze in the open. I ran, tackled him down, just as another shell cracked open the ground where he'd been standing. Dirt rained over us. My ears were ringing. My shoulder ached from the hit, but he was alive. Then, in the comms tent, the radio flared to life. Static, then a voice, urgent, panting. They're not just hitting you. Multiple positions down the line, coordinated sweep, brace. They're boxing you in. Ramirez heard it. So did Riley. We locked eyes for half a second. That's when we understood. This wasn't just about wiping us out. It was about cutting us off. Isolating us. Making sure no one got out. I looked up just in time to see the silhouette of a squad pushing up the ridge. Rifles drawn, flanking left. Too fast. Too tight. Our left side wasn't ready. "Left side! Contact!" I screamed. Voice raw, throat dry. Then everything happened at once. Gunfire, smoke, another shell. Jackson fell backward, pulling one of the new guys with him. Riley dove toward the MG as the barrel jammed. Ramirez was shouting, something I couldn't hear, and I started running. And that's when I saw it. A shadow in the fog. Closer than it should have been. Too close.